Travis Holmes with the Duval podcast, BigCatCountry.com, and Fans First Sports Network. Here to chop it up and just kind of have an offline conversation, bring it online today. We're in the middle of draft season, obviously. We're in the middle of the offseason, discussing all the best prospects for the upcoming NFL draft in April, and also talking about the best possible candidates, the best possible prospects to bring into this Jacksonville Jaguars organization. And in having the conversation with one of my guys offline, I thought this was a good time to bring that offline conversation online and discussing, would you, you listening to this podcast, you listening to this snippet, would you make a good NFL general manager? Because the way one of my guys put it, like, hey, man, I think you make a good NFL general manager. And I'm like, no, I mean, I think I might be able to do it. And, and the more you think about it, the more you kind of realize we as members of the media, we as fans of an NFL franchise, for the most part, in doing this mock drafts and picking your personal, favorite free agents for your individual team, in this case, the Jacksonville Jaguars, probably believe that you would make the most incredible general manager ever, and if they just followed your advice, that they would be a winning organization. And based on the history of this franchise, you might be right. Let me be clear. We've had some pretty bad general managers exist here in the past, so I'm not saying you're wrong in that case when you're comparing it to possibly some of the worst general managers we've seen in the NFL. However, there is a conversation that should be had about most NFL fans, most members of the media don't have the level of information that most general managers are using to make their evaluations of these free agents, to make their evaluations of these NFL prospects from college. Like, that's how you get late risers in the draft, such as, a Trevon Walker, who then gets drafted number one in the draft over Aiden Hutchinson, because they've talked to those scouts. They've talked to his former coaches. They tell you, hey, man, maybe you should relook at that film, that you're saying you're looking at. Maybe relook at that film with the vantage point of a lot of these things in this defense may not work if he's not taking up these blocks, or if he's not doing these things that's not showing up on the stat sheet. Now look back at that, or now talk to those other players on that roster, and then you will realize they're all saying the same thing. It works only because that guy. Or even another example from the Jacksonville Jaguars organization, maybe someone like Mac Jones, someone who then gets drafted 15th in the 2021 NFL draft after his moving up draft boards after an impressive week of practice at the Senior Bowl that season. There's good and bad examples of these late riser guys kind of climbing the ranks, and that's because they're getting that additional information from, again, coaches, from, again, the scouts, from, again, they're talking to their grade school teachers. They're talking to other players on the team with him and trying to realize, is he a leader? Is he kind of promoting those right things? Is this a guy that if I give $30 million guaranteed, is he going to continue being the same guy that we've seen him be? Like, is he going to be a guy who's actually going to show up to practice? Is he going to be a guy who's going to actually give us everything? Because those things matter, because these are just people. You're not just being a general manager. You're being a therapist. You're projecting who this person is going to be based on your 3 months, 5 months, maybe even a year of research. And so sometimes the closer you are to these decisions, the farther away the consensus board you might land. And that's before we even get into free agency. Having the conversation of most people who are making these picks, in the fan base, so, or most of these people in the media, may just be okay at basic math. And that's not a knock. That's just being an objective statement based on the level of education that we kind of have in America. Just call it what it is. Like, hey, most people aren't incredible at this advanced math. Or what are salary caps? That's advanced math. I'm sorry, it kind of is what it is. But maybe you'll say, hey, Travis, we have finance guys, we have accountants in our organization. They can handle that stuff. All right, cool. Well, the salary cap, again, void years and all of those conversations, managing the cap is a big part of being a general manager. And again, the closer these general managers get to these decisions, talking about injuries, am I drafting a guy who's going to be an eggshell? Am I moving him up or down draft boards because of the prospect that maybe that knee's going to burst out within 2 or 3 years, and most fans aren't even evaluating that piece of the process, and that makes the difference between me drafting Myles Garrett or me drafting, I don't know, Taven Bryan. Like, just those kinds of conversations are things that we're just not talking about. We're just talking about, hey man, the film is this and the film is that. And so if you're asking the question, will I make a great general manager? Well, then the question of the hour is how would you view all those things? Is it just film first, film over everything? And if I give this guy $30 million, is he going to become a guy who's not showing up to practice in 2 years? If you feel that way, then awesome. But that's how the whole, Justin Blackman situation happens. Is other teams, you find out other teams knew about these, issues where he's reportedly in, the bar at these late times of nights the day before a game or things of that nature. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars may or may not even know about that information. Like, these are how those things happen. So it's kind of you're put into a weird situation for these general managers. So I don't feel for them at all. Like, I feel for them in a lot of ways if you're not doing your investigation, but if you are and you're just pulling a guy down the draft board, that kind of sucks. So those are the things that I'm kind of I guess I'm kind of landing on is, dang, the closer you get with these evaluations, the more information you get within these evaluations of these players, the harder the decisions that seem to be basic layups kind of become. So that's how you get into the Tech McMillan kind of conversation when with the reports of the comments that he made within that interview that was, I believe it was released by the team, about his lack of a motivation to watch film alone without the team being around, and those other comments as far as his lack of a will to, like, he didn't love football, he doesn't love practice, kind of those kinds of things kind of come into the conversation because you're drafting a guy top 5. You want it to be a guaranteed hit, and if it's not, if you're moving that guy to maybe I wouldn't draft him before 10 or whatever the number is, because I have questions there. That's fully understandable. But also, if you miss on that guy and he becomes an all-pro, everyone's looking at you like, see, I guess you should have just gone with the tape. But that's a hard conversation. So that's where I leave you guys, is with the question of, would you truly be a good general manager? Or would you just be another guy who's just gauging the film and hoping the chips land where they will with these guys who are imperfect beings, as we all are? Or do they deserve maybe a little bit of grace? But yeah, check into the Duval Dive. We're going to have you guys covered every Wednesday. BigCatCountry.com. Of course, we'll have your write-ups for any breaking news coming up with the Jacksonville Jaguars with this upcoming NFL draft. And as always, Duval, go Jaguars. Let's go.